honor to our ancestors. If it was not for them, there'll be no us. We rise and stand on their shoulders. They set a mighty foundation. I want to ask my elders, and I think this is important because lots of times in the African-centered spaces, I think we've lost a little bit of a tradition. And I think that sometimes we got caught up in some things. I think I probably got some notes, but let's see how we stay on them a little bit today. But I think we got caught up in some of the liberal ideas in academia, and we lost our ways many times. And I understand why. But, we're going to talk about that. It's a both and approach. So may I ask my elders for permission to speak?
Permission granted.
Please speak, sir.
Hotel.
Thank you. So today, I want to just go ahead and get started and say that the title is Njia, the journey of both and. That is very important, right? And I want to set that before I give credence and thank you all for coming on. But I just kind of want to say it's the Njia, the journey of both and, restoring balance, belief, and the Black psyche. So let me go and start by saying this. I want to give credence to Baba Dr. Khalil Bey for inviting me on here. I thank him for extending the invitation. I say this, lots of people, I'm pretty different. Let me just say that. So wherever I go, I hope y'all can still see me because I can't see y'all. But nonetheless, wherever I go, I'm going to bring a perspective that just shakes up. I mean, I just love shaking things up because I think that's what we got to do to keep ourselves ignited a bit, keep our faculties working, keep us on our toes, keep us growing and all that type of thing. Because I think that sometimes we get too comfortable. So I say it takes real courage to invite me. I don't know if Baba knows that or not, but take some courage. So I give honor and respect to the Baba. I give respect to the Black Awakening movement. Thanks for having me. Thanks for holding space and having me here today. And I think I saw that it's also going to be streamed on a BB Toomey platform. Much respect to BB Toomey for the work that they do as well. So again, I want to go back at over the title Njia, which means the way. In Kiswahili, the way. And the subtitle, the journey of both and. And what do I mean by that? What I mean by Njia, the journey of both and, is it's the way, and not just in a singular sense. What I mean by the way in Kiswahili, it's also singular and plural. And we understand that African culture is a pluralistic culture. And many times what we get caught up on one way, but there's many ways to the same path, and we understand it as African people. So I also want to suggest that, you can join in as my elder, Baba Henry Gregory, Dr. Henry Gregory, one of the Babas that Baba Khalil has done much work with in the past, often says, so let's do this together. He says we can do this together. So I don't have a problem if y'all don't have a problem with walking together and talking together, with some limitations. Try to keep it short, type of thing. You know what I mean? So, Baba, you got any problem with that? I see.
Not at this point, bro. You haven't presented anything that sounds like a problem.
No. I'm saying, is it okay to kind of, for us to dialogue together?
Yeah, without a doubt. We want to do that. We want to make sure that everybody, because if this is discussion, then everybody's included, and we'll make sure that we do our best to include ourselves in that.
All right, so let's have a discussion. That's what I want to do. And the Mama, Jehudi Mayat, she started off earlier talking about those relationships. And I want to talk about relationships because I have something I often say to my clients and often to the people at the Temple of New African Thought. I say relationships are relationships are relationships. And what do I mean by that? What I mean by that is, one, the relationships that we have with those that are closest to us show up in other places and spaces. And many times we don't notice our behaviors in these other spaces because we aren't as close to other people in these spaces as we are to those who are more intimate and close to us, even in what we can call, for lack of a better term, I want to say romantic relationships. The people that we're married to, the people we're trying to be in relationship with, we struggle in that area. We struggle in those intimate relationships. And we know that much of that has come about as a result of our experience here in America, through the transatlantic slave trade, through the Mayafa that continues today. We struggle, but we don't really realize that we struggle across the board because we don't know how, to a great degree, know how to be in a solid relationship. And I say collectively. I'm saying collectively because I know there's individuals that have done some good things, but as a collective, we struggle in that area. And that's one of the things that we've talked about for years as it pertains to even our movements, our organizations. And I say that the problem is that we are struggling with these ideas. We're struggling with this trauma that Dr. Joy DeGruy speaks about, that Dr. Amos Wilson speaks about, that Dr. Akbar spoke about, that Dr. Akbar speaks about, that Dr. Noble speak about. We're struggling with that trauma, a loss of consciousness. But when I say trauma, what do I mean? I like to make it very simple. That trauma, what it does to us, it breaks down our ability to be in relationship. And so hence we ask, why is it such a struggle to be in organization with people? Because we don't trust one another. We often say, why don't we trust one another? Because we have not healed. We have not healed. We are fragmented, not only externally, but we are fragmented or disintegrated internally. That is my hypothesis, that we have to go through what I will call an inward right to pull the pieces back together inside of ourselves so that we can, again, walk together again. I'm having some technical difficulty here. I'm hoping y'all can see me. Can y'all still see me or hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Because my screen is like going out and things like that, so I cannot see. So please feel free to jump in. But so I want to say, I heard the mama say earlier that we have to change the narrative. We have to change the narrative. And I think that is so true. But what narrative do we need to change? We need to change narratives on all levels. We need to change the narrative that we talk about ourselves, what we say about ourselves, because, again, we are disintegrated. We are disconnected inside. And because we're disconnected inside, we're disconnected on the outside. I am not one of those people to argue that we have to do all the work inside. I'm one of the people to say it's a both and approach. I argue that we have leaned too far to the left or too far to the right. Most of us, many of us, we struggle with that middle path, which we call Mayat. I say we speak Mayat, we talk Mayat, we talk about truth, justice, balance, harmony, order, reciprocity, propriety, and so on and so forth. But how do we utilize Mayat in those ancient teachings today? To me, the ancients have left a blueprint for us to build on. So what about it? We must reflect and integrate those pieces of ourselves so that we can be whole people. Not that we're not people or humans or even beautiful people, but we are disintegrated, fragmented inside. Hence, we're fragmented on the outside. And the fragmentation on the outside on all the levels, I call the leads, internally, familially, communally, Societally, in all the rest of the leagues, we have fragmentation because we struggle within ourselves. And that struggle within ourselves goes back to that trust piece. And that trust piece is that because first and foremost, we don't trust ourselves. And if you can't trust yourselves, it's not even about trusting anybody else. You don't trust yourself to be with anybody else. And then when you don't trust yourself, you feel like a fraud. When you don't trust yourself, you feel like a fraud. You feel like a imposter. Many people aren't telling you this, but we walk around every day trying to figure out what the manual is, what the sequence is, what the formula is to life. But the reality is life is not lived like that. We're looking for the manual, but there's not one. You are the manual, I would argue, but what we have to do is integrate ourselves. And once we integrate ourselves into a whole, then we'll become healthy, more responsible. And what I mean, responsible in our relationships. And part of the issue is that narrative again. That narrative that we tell ourselves about many things. The mama said, we need to change our narrative. And I argue we need to change the narrative in inside and outside. Most of our issues come with this struggle, not the struggle with the narrative and the picture that we paint for ourselves. We have a struggle with the narrative. And I want to say this. I always love this. Dr. John Henry Clarke says that people will say you said, what you didn't say, and refuse or stubbornly refuse to hear what you truly said. And that is a part of that narrative, that this or that approach that we find ourselves in a society. Dr. Clarke also said that this society, everything is in competition with everything. And I would argue us being fragmented inside of ourselves, we're in competition with our own self. We don't trust ourselves. We live split, internally split, on a real level, split. But we have to bring it together. And when we split, we have to see things in all positive or all negative, not a both and, not juxtaposing them, putting them together. We live in two different worlds. We live in a world that says, we live in a world often sometimes that's just make-believe. And this make-believe world has us having to ignore what's really going on out in this society. Because we have to live in this world when we fragment it in a make-believe world, because this is what helps us feel good. But the problem is that make-believe world is not sustainable. And then we get hit with something that hurt. We get hit with reality. But the problem is reality feels so real and it feels like it's endless. But that's not even the full reality. Full reality is that we have all different levels of experience. But when you fragment it, you want to live in a constant state of pleasure. In the Husia, Dr. Melania Karenga put the book together with our ancient teachings. It says, he who chases joy all day will never find a happy moment. He will not be content. Our ancestors spoke about it. Our ancestors said, live a balanced life, a life of acceptance. I would argue we don't have to turn to the East. I'm not saying you can't, but I'm saying what we have from our African ancestors and ancestors of today, our ancestors and us of today, we have a lot of genius here. And part of the issue as well is when we're fragmented, we don't even realize the genius in ourselves. And when we realize the genius in ourselves, then we can begin to realize the genius in others. Give yourself permission to be genius. We talk about geniuses as children. We talk about, Dr. Amos Wilson talks about the genius in the child. What about the genius in you? What about the genius in you? You talk about the genius in Imhotep, the multi-genius, but what about the genius in you and the genius in your brother and sister in your community? I am saying that there's no genius back then that doesn't exist today. If the child can be a genius, the adult can be a genius. And we must recognize the genius in one another. And that genius is on so many levels. I am saying this because what I am saying is, let me get to why I'm saying all of this. Because one of the things we say is in some of our African-centered circles is that we should not diagnose. And I think that's part of a problem. Literally, I think that's partly problem because our ancestors diagnosed. They would have never talked about Ma'at and Isfet. They would have never talked about chaos and balance, harmony versus chaos if that wasn't a diagnosis. See, to me, it's not a problem with diagnosing the problem. The problem is to get stuck there. I think that sometimes in the mental health community, we get away from diagnosing. But I think we should come up at least with our own diagnosis if you don't want to accept their diagnosis. Or I don't think they own anything. I think they do well at labeling things. I have to give that to them. But there are some issues in our community and we cannot look past them. I'm talking about, so again, what I'm saying is this. In academia, there's a war going on. And that war is often between what I call the white matriarchy and the white patriarchy. White matriarchy being liberal, white women, mostly, who use euphemisms and change words and rather than changing condition. And we fall for it. We fall for white feminism, and then we have our own version of black feminism, but we overlook Africana womanism. Because grants and things and all types of things clouds our view. So I'm saying our issue is a both and. It is an internal, it is a familial, it is a communal, it is a societal issue. And if anyone from my estimation ignores any and all of it, they are coming up short, and we are coming up short. Because it is a both and approach that we have to take, because both and is the language that our ancestors talk about, that our elders have rediscovered and unveiled, and we don't often talk about the both and. There's perspective, there's different angles, there's different positions, there's different ways. But the ways must be in accord with what we call Ma'at. You can call it something else. You don't have to get stuck with Ma'at. You can call it balance, harmony, reciprocity, propriety, whatever. But what I'm saying is there's many ways, and you can still be in alignment with what we call Ma'at. But you can't be in alignment unless you are in alignment with what we call Ma'at or the like. And Ma'at requires a both and approach, and it's also a pluralistic approach, not a one-way approach. Because many times we get dogmatic, even in our circles and our spaces. In fact, we get so dogmatic that we can't continue the work, and we can't even see the genius in ourselves. So I'm saying you are a genius. You have genius in you. Your children don't grow up. They didn't used to be genius, but they're still genius when they become adults. And what do you think you are? If your children can be genius, why can't you be? And why am I saying this? Because when you have permission, and when you have the permission, when you show your genius, you give other people the ability to do the same thing. So I put a statement here. I want to talk about lineage. And I think that is very important that I speak to this, that I was born in this community, this African Black power, African-centered community. My father, Dennis Ausar Winkler, or Baba Ausar, brought me in as a child. So I had many teachers, directly or not, but I used to go to the Dr. Ben lectures when I was a baby. I was a member of the Universal African Church, the Maya Temple here in Baltimore, back in I don't know if that's the 80s and 90s. I remember when they used to say Osiris before we start saying Ausar. You understand? Or, so I'm saying I've been around, and I want to just make this key declaration that I'm a student of those of the likes of Dr. John Henry Clark, Dr. Francis Cress Welsing, Dr. Amos Wilson, Dr. Ray Hagins, Dr. Patricia Newton, Dr. Joy DeGruy, Dr. Marimba Ani, Dr. Wade Nobles, Dr. Kobe Cambone, Dr. Henry Gregory. I'm going to say Dr. Khalil Bey. And I think, and what I'm saying here is that I think there's a unique difference or specific difference between what we call Black consciousness and woke. I'm not saying woke doesn't have some things. I'm just saying, I know they're getting a lot of flack. And I'm not saying that Black consciousness can't be somehow, if someone wants to call this a woke umbrella, I'm just saying, let's be specific. Because there's lots of levels of wokeism going on. I'm not being funny. But what I am saying is I realize a lot of times what people call woke is really nothing more than I want to be, I know some things. I understand there's oppression. Dr. Malefi Asante says that that's a problem with that level of consciousness. He says that Black people, many times we get stuck in this level of consciousness of oppression versus this consciousness of victory. And we have to know the whole picture, the entire narrative. We get stuck in half fragmented narratives. And whenever you have a fragmented narrative, you feel inferior. You feel hopeless. You feel overwhelmed, because that is what trauma does to you on an individual level. And I say on a collective level, there's a collective level of fragmentation. So there's a collective level of fragmentation that keeps us collectively fragmented with each other, because internally or individually we feel fragmented within ourselves. I'm saying, I argue and I maintain this. This is real, and we have to heal. We have to. We often say in our communities that we never got the healing we needed. Well, go get it. And I'm saying this because we also say that we don't have our own psychotherapeutic theories. I am saying we have them. I'm saying they don't even have to look like their stuff. And I'm saying that we have them because in Njia theory, which I am a developer of, understands that we have it, because theories tell you three things. They tell you how to understand phenomenon. They tell you how to intervene or engage with phenomenon. And they tell you how to be as a clinician or a practitioner. They tell you how you show up, how you be. So how you be, how you understand, and how you engage or intervene. And I am saying that we have too many scholars, practitioners to be saying that we don't have our own stuff. I was just talking to Baba Khalil earlier today, and he told me he just finished his great project that he's been working on for years. So no more can we say we don't have anything when we know Baba Khalil back in the what was the 80s and 70s or what have you, they were out there with their enriched family therapy and all that type of thing, doing the work for years. So we must stop saying we don't have a thing. Just quite like we say we don't have institutions, let's say we need to do more. But the reality say we don't have a thing will not allow the thing that we do have to live or to breathe life into it. That's why schools and institutions like Sojourner Douglas College that we spoke about earlier are no longer around, because people don't know the historical work from a real black institution found out the Black Power movement for us, by us, where they were utilizing textbooks like the ISIS papers and textbooks like Pedagogy of the Oppressed. Some of y'all can't deal with Paulo Freire, but I got you. But what I'm saying, you know, the miseducation of the Negro, all these different types of texts to revolutionize the minds of our people. And I'm saying we did not appreciate it. And we have to appreciate what we have, because as Dr. Amos Wilson says, our taste buds have been created. And those who we find interesting, because our disintegrated cells or fragmented cells, they mean us no, they don't mean us well. Even if they look like us, sound like us, talk like us, study us, because that's what they do. They look like us, they sound like us, and they study us. And they know what we like. They know our taste buds. They know we have a relentless or insatiable appetite for things to keep us stimulated in ways to keep us off track, out of order, not in alignment with Mayat.
Good brother, may I add something?
Yes, sir.
I mean, is this open discussion? If it's not, then brother, I will mute my microphone.
Well, if you have something about under a minute, pop it off.
Well, first of all, I want to say I share everything you said, great brother. I definitely agree. And to just kind of stay within that context, first of all, I'm Baba Kalunji. I'm the senior pastor at the Shrine of the Black Madonna in Houston, Texas.
Peace, Bob.
And so, you know, one of the things that the founder of the shrine taught, Jeremiah Baby Ajaman, also known as Reverend Albert B. Clegg, is that, you know, he called this process, this trauma that you're talking about, niggerization, and that this niggerization created a lack of confidence and self-esteem, of course, across the entire Black race. And one of the ways that we have to deal with that, first of all, is to get in these kind of group settings like you've created tonight and the elder has created tonight, to kind of discuss, you know, the trauma and the fragmentation of the mental stability of the Black race collectively, and to critique one another, to confront one another about these things and about these ideas. Oftentimes, you know, I tend to believe the Black conscious community, we talk among ourselves, and there's a lack of confrontation with the broader Black community about these ideas that they have and we have. And so I just want to say that, brother, great information and rhetoric so far, and keep up the great work.
Thank you, Baba. So, and on that note, I appreciate that. I want to talk about an idea. I just want to throw out a few things that I'm going to hit on in my book. I want us to really consider this idea of the wounded warrior, or the pedestalized victim, or pedestalized healing. What I mean by the wounded warrior, we don't often talk about. We talk about the wounded. What is the wounded? It's another wounded somebody, but I can't think about it. But nonetheless, say it again.
The wounded healer is one I hear a lot.
That's it. Thank you. The wounded healer. And we talk about that. The wounded healer is going to hurt you. The wounded warrior is going to hurt us. We mean well. I'm not saying you can't have some pain, but some of us have not healed to a degree that we need to be doing certain things. Because again, we haven't dealt with an inner right or an outward right of passage. We have all types of gifts, but we don't many times allow ourselves to be under the tutelage or the guidance of a rite of passage, whether you call that or not. A rites of passage, a teacher, because we want to become the teacher, and we allow those who climb up ranks, whether that be in our whatever, our neighborhood, our communities, our institutions, our organizations, on social media, to rise up as wounded healers and wounded warriors because they speak to our wounds. Because again, as Dr. Amos talks about that wound, part of that wound is that our taste buds have been curated. Our taste buds have been curated for us and being used against us. So we are intoxicated and we feel a collective experience through wounded warriors and healers. A lot of wounded warriors will take you to your demise. We have to heal because we have to be able to think. We have to think about Set and Heru, and when Heru was trying to avenge his father's death, he was angry. He was so enraged that he couldn't get it together. He was so enraged that his anger grew and grew and grew. And the more it grew, Set grew and got stronger and stronger and stronger. Chaos, its Fet got stronger, stronger, and stronger. And I am saying that that is a mirror that our ancients left for us, that we can look into today and look at the mirror and say, is that me? Because there's something about anger that feels good. I'm not saying anger is not needed. It is. Because some of us say that we say that things are both and we'll say like anger is not needed. It's toxic. It can be toxic, but it doesn't necessarily mean it is toxic. But sometimes, or toxic anger will have us not thinking, and we'll like to stay in that state and place because it makes us feel brave. And I say it makes us dumb if we don't utilize it properly. Because anger, you know how it is. You are a passive person, because a lot of us are passive, and there's nothing wrong with that. You just got to learn to be a little bit more assertive. And then there's others that are really aggressive. And I say again, this is a journey of both and. So we got to kind of come to that middle lane, that middle ground. A both and approach means that this, that, and not this or that. We live in a white society, or a Western society where it's this or that, them against us. And we pick those up and we adopt those because that is what traumatized people do. People who are traumatized live in a this or that world because we are disintegrated. A this or that world. When we go back to Heru was so angry, and he kept he wanted to avenge his father's death with that anger. He could not conquer Set until Tahuti and Mayat came to him and brought him back on path. So we, as wounded warriors, have to be brought back on path, because anger makes you feel brave, but you'll be an unnecessary martyr. If you're going to be a martyr, goddamn, excuse my language. If you're going to be a martyr, let it be meaningful. You can't do math when you are operating out of a state of fight and flight without a level of calm, a level of practice training, a level of intellect. You have to bring the intellect in the heart. That's another thing that happens in our community, that we talk about the spirit or the ethereal, as I say, but we damn sure can't deal with the material. everything's so spiritual. And it's fine, because I think that everything is spiritual, because, as many of our elders and teachers have taught. But then we separate it. How is everything spiritual, then it's not? I don't know. You can't say everything's spiritual, then you say this is not spiritual. I'm just saying it doesn't make sense. It's both and. They said that spirit is in everything, animate and inanimate, and then they take it out of it. It's all encompassing. It's all interconnected, and then you say it's not. I don't understand that. So we romanticize the wounded healer, but what we need are integrated warriors. Warriors who do not lead from their wound, but from their clarity. And let me say that pedestalizing the wounded is a trauma response. It is often rewarded by liberal systems that prefer our vulnerability over our responsibility. And I am saying that this system is so I'm having some technical difficulties here. I don't know what my screen going out for, but this system is so, I'm not even going to say it's smart, but what I will say is when people are in survival mode, some skills, they got skills. You know, like, it's so people out here in survival mode. And that's what this system is, a survival system. A system of people who were already traumatized when they came over here and took the lives and the lands of other people. No, they were traumatized. And that's another thing. Like we keep talking about us being traumatized. No. Let's look. I know y'all say y'all don't care about them. No, let's look at them. Let's examine them. They examine you. Let's examine them. I know you say, don't examine them. We don't care. Don't be afraid. You can examine them and still protect yourself. You can examine them and still protect yourself. You can. They came over here escaping prison and famine and all types of things, poverties and indentures and all types of horrendous conditions. They were supposed to start something anew. What do you think traumatized people will start? Something that traumatizes other people. So they're masters at it. We understand when we look at this thing on a micro level, not necessarily on a societal level. That's why I say both and, because we can look at it on all levels. We got to look at it on all levels, all the leads. That hurt people. Traumatized people trauma begets trauma is what I say. Trauma begets trauma. And I am suggesting that if we're in a society, I'm not saying that everybody's traumatized. That's another thing. No, I'm not saying that everybody's traumatized. Because if everybody's traumatized, we're doomed. No, there's some people out here who experience trauma that are not traumatized. And I'm saying that includes some of us. Do we all have some wounds? Yes. But that doesn't mean we're traumatized, because traumatized is a specific state. As we have to be able to diagnose. I am not with the idea that we're not going to be diagnosing the thing. No. Diagnosing the thing is not all totally deficit. No, there's strength in diagnosing. The people who say that we got to deal with strengths, and then they say that strengths in everything, and then they don't want to take this. They don't want to acknowledge that there's strength in diagnosing. What I'm saying is we have to be able to rationalize and reason what we're saying. You can't say there's strengths in everything and then take it out of something. Totally. You just can't do that. It's a both and. You are both and person, then you say there's no strength in diagnosing. No, again, our ancestors have diagnosed. There would not be a Isfet or Mayat if we did not diagnose. Right. Another concept I want to talk about is overcorrection. We overcorrect in this society. That's why we see every so many years we go from this extreme to that extreme. This extreme to that extreme. We have to balance ourselves. And we get caught up in these fights. These are not our fights as African people. What I mean by these fights, I'm saying these white matriarchal and white patriarchal fights. They're not our fights. We get allured into the white matriarchal fight because we're so angry at the patriarchal fight We don't even realize we're caught up in the white matriarchal fight. I know we like the word matriarchal. I don't typically like either one. Pardon me. I don't care who used it before. I kind of like what Obati Shaka speaks about when he talks about twin lineal or matrilineal, patrilineal, because I mean, I think it has to be balanced. It's not a this or that. It's a both and. So we overcorrect. We swing between extremes, thinking we're healing, but what we're doing is reacting. From an African perspective, this is fat, imbalance, malalignment, disorder. Mayat, on the other hand, is not just peace. It is a method. It is a measure, and it is a mirror. Mayat is not just balance. It is a method. It is a measure. It is a mirror. Mayat is not rejection to chaos. It is the rightful placement of it. Because again, we need everything. We need all is needed. And when we talk about the rite of passage, we understand that chaos is inevitable. When you're in a rite of passage during transitional periods, they're going to feel very chaotic. And many times, because we don't feel that chaos is going to, we sell ourselves short when we try to stay in a constant place of what we call happiness or joy or peace and think that we can't feel sorrow, hurt, and pain. You will always be out of balance when you're always in a constant pursuit of joy, happiness, and pain. In fact, if you accept all these emotions, you'll find yourself in more of a space of balance, harmony, and order. And you'll be able to embody that grief is not bad. In fact, grief is beautiful. But we live in a society that is made up. We live in a society that has been manufactured falsely, where we think literally in our minds. I work with people every day. They literally in their minds cannot think about someone passing in their life because we're out of balance. We're out of order. We're out of season. I'm not saying it's not going to hurt, but we literally in our minds have blacked out the fact that mama's 99 years old and it's time for her she's trying to go. And then we talk about the babies that are coming, the return of the ancestor, the purity there. The purity of that ancestor returned. That ancestor is in all of us. The work is for all of us to get back into that core piece of ourselves. That pure inner self, that pure, if you want to say, that inner child. Not the wounded child, the inner child. Not at a developmental level, but as the pure aspect of yourself, which I will call spirit, that is not encumbered or covered by what we call mind or intellect or emotion. These two things are important, again, because it's a both and. But intellectually out of balance and emotionally out of balance are both problematic. And I know we're in a time where emotions rule, because we were in a time where intellect ruled, and now we're in a time where people who are black, who are more intellectual, are not necessarily thought of or care for so much. We're saying they're too black and white. We're saying they're too intellectual. We're saying they're too much, and we have to deal with the emotion because the emotion is a spirit. I don't say the emotion is not spirit. It will confuse you to believe that it's spirit. It will have you believing that you feeling things and you have all this intuition and you don't. I work with lots of people and they come in and they'll say they have intuition and they can do this. And I thought about it. Like, I stopped liking the word intuition. But then I realized, no, it's not about, they just don't, what they're calling intuition just isn't intuition. It's called their feeling. It's called their trauma. And the problem is, I started off at the beginning, that trauma has you struggling with trusting yourself. And most of the people that say they're highly intuitive, highly empathetic, highly this and highly that, they're emotionally out of balance.
What's up?
they're emotionally out of balance. And they have not been through a rite, an inward rite or external rite. They have not been through the journey. They don't have a teacher. They become gurus overnight. They all have Facebook accounts and lives. They all have these whatever. They all are special, but they never been through an initiation. And some of them have. They've been through too many of them. They've been through every initiation, every system, every school that you can think of. You either never been through none or you've been through too many. I'm sorry if it's hitting you. I'm just saying it's not too late. Pardon me. But what I am saying is, in our community, yes, I understand that we don't have to pathologize certain things, certain skills, and certain things, but we have to. If it hasn't been through a right, we have the right to say, no, that ain't been harnessed. I know you see things, but it ain't been harnessed. You ain't been through no initiation. The elders didn't walk you through so that you can harness that gift. Because as I was saying, on the other side of your trauma is your gift. But if it has not been harnessed and nurtured and you haven't been walked through, no, we got to stop that. Because everybody becomes a self-proclaimed prophet or spiritual guru. They have Indian, half African, and half Japanese. And what I mean by spiritual systems, not ethnicities. They have everything. They have Ifa, they have Akan, they have Kemetic. And what I am saying is nothing's wrong with any of that. But we have to show discipline in whatever we do. And in this system, it rewards that level of woundedness. In the system that we find ourselves in, it rewards what I call the pedestalized victim, a person that feels everything, or a person who in the past who has intellectualized everything and doesn't have a heart for anything, because they are hurt and they are afraid to allow you to get to that little wounded child. Both are. Too far to the right or too far to the left is still operating in a high level of isfet and not being nurtured on an inward right or outward right or communal right. We have to go through initiation. We have to go through systems, whether they are formalized or just organic. Who told you that you? Who initiated you? What rite of passage did you go through? Formally or informally? Did you go through an inner rite? That is the most important, because lots of us can do things on the external. We're really good at external things. In fact, external things help stimulate us. But what have you really thought about your thinking? Have you thought about your feelings? Have you thought about your behaviors, which is a part of personality? We, again, sometimes from my standpoint, overemphasize what we call spiritual or the ethereal or spiritual versus science. And I say, as African people, it's both and. Why do we continue to talk about astrology, but we won't talk about astronomy? Why can we say that our ancestors were the first who did this, but don't follow the blueprint? Because again, in my observation or my estimation is that when you've been robbed material or intellectual material even, which I don't think that people can rob you of, honestly. But when you feel like you're not intellectual and you've been robbed of feeling that way, you begin to overdo or overcorrect, as I'm talking about in this, overcorrect what you feel like you're strong in. So the spirit is overly emphasized, whereas where science and those type of things are taking a backseat. And I'm not saying that science isn't spiritual, because I believe it is. But for the sake of conversation, we understand that conversation is one of the things I read in Muada Ashby's Book of the Dead, Coming Forth Day by Night, is that it says try to understand the heart, because words can be confusing. And I think that if we integrated that in our conversations, even like the one we have today, the Baba came on, Baba Khalil, he gave some ground rules about respecting one another. Many times we literally are saying things the same, or we all mean well, even if we disagree, but try to read the heart of the person. Because if you don't read the heart of the person, you'll overlook a serious co-warrior, warrioress, or ally. But then if you just listen to the words, and the words alone, you'll align yourself with somebody who doesn't have your heart or anybody else's in mind. So read the heart, because words can be confusing. So again, overcorrection, family. We overcorrect where intellect has taken a back seat to emotions. I am saying that even our scholar priests, you hear what I'm saying? In our traditions, we can have scholar priests, both and. Our scholars are priests and our priests are scholars. Doesn't have to be a left or right thing. A left brain versus right brain thing. It's called synchronicity. It's called putting it in sync. It's called allowing the corpus callosum to balance both sides of your brain. Collective trauma, fight, flight, and false revolution. I say many of us are not rising, we are reacting. And that is what happens when you've been through trauma or you're traumatized. And I'm saying collectively, not individually, but on a collective, there's too much trauma going on and we become very reactionary. We saw that during this political season. I said, I've been on panels and it was interesting. I just pointed out some things that are obvious, that this party is obviously, they're not for us. And this party right here, who looks like us for us, is not for us as much as you think they are. Which we all know if we really dig down deep inside. But then people start to hear what you didn't say, as Dr. Clark says. People will hear what you didn't say and stubbornly refuse to hear what you truly said. And that statement alone, you know what that means? What Dr. Clark was talking about? What he was talking about is what people do when they are at traumatized or they've been triggered. Their emotional system is being triggered in such a way that they did not hear what you said. They only heard what they picked up as a threat to their system. So people will not hear what you truly said. They won't if we don't heal ourselves. We won't listen for the heart because the words were too threatening. We won't listen for the heart because the words were too threatening. And the words don't have to be that threatening. When we integrate our left and right, up and down, in and out, as they say, so as it is above, so is it below. That's both and. When you think about spirit and you think about science, or you think about science as things that we think we know with the research we have at hand and that type of thing. But when you have spirit, from my standpoint, I argue spirit is different than religion, and I'm not beating up on religion, but what I am saying is this, that to me, to be spiritual, now you don't have to agree with me, is to be comfortable with what you don't know. Rather, religion tells you things that it thinks it knows, but it really doesn't know it. It just helps you feel comfortable with it. But that's okay too. Another symptom of trauma that Dr. Joy DeGruy speaks about is that our belief system is out of whack. In her book, Post-Traumatic Slave Syndrome, which Dr. Patricia Newton called post-traumatic slave disorder, which Dr. Amos Wilson calls a certain level of post-traumatic slave something. I can't remember what he said, but he also says that there's a loss of consciousness that he and Nobles and Cabone and so many more talk about. That there's this loss of consciousness. But again, I want to highlight this idea, this thought that Dr. DeGruy speaks about that many of us don't really realize. We overlook it because we only look for things to, let me not say only, but especially when we're operating from a state of fight and flight, when we're operating from a state of survival, we have to calm our nervous systems. Because when we're operating from a state of survival, we miss the whole picture. As the mama said when she started, the entire narrative. We have to rewire the narrative. I am suggesting, again, we need to rewire the narrative inside of ourselves in the grand narrative of this world. But what Dr. Joy DeGruy says that when one has been through a certain level of a trauma, whether that's individually or collectively, our belief systems are out of whack. And we create these narratives which become a part of the culture that are true or not true. And the narratives either can be adaptive or maladaptive. And many of the narratives we have had for years, we need to revisit them and look at them and see if they really serving us or not. Because it's not a problem with something not being true, but how is it serving you? That's what it is. And as one of my mentors I brought up earlier, Dr. Henry Gregory, says that if you don't examine your beliefs every now and again, your beliefs have you, you don't have them. So our beliefs can be contorted by trauma. I'm coming home, family, coming home. So I'm saying we must return to homeostasis. Yeah. Return to Africa. Return to balance. Return to order. Return to harmony. Return to Mayat. It's fat. It's needed. It's all of that. But we can't live in eternal states of isfet. Chaos, you feel as you go through a rite. But there's some order that comes about through the process. Through transitional periods in your life, they feel very chaotic, but that's not a place you stay in. But it is a place that you can grow through. It's the opening of another way. The opening of a way to another level. And I'm saying we are suffering on many of these levels, all the way from childhood to eldership to ancestorhood, because we have not truly initiated ourselves inwardly, or have not been initiated in our communities. And many times we struggle to be initiated in community because we struggle to trust. And even when we do it, it becomes more of a ritual than it is an internal evolution. So one thing I speak about many times is this. There's this guy named Victor Van der Kolk. You know him, Baba. The Body Keeps Score, right? And I think it's Van der Kolk was the Siegel speaks about this story. I can't remember one of them. But nonetheless, they speak about 9/11. What happened in New York. They speak about that when the Twin Towers fell, the people who could run home, who got to home or to safety in their home, were less likely to be traumatized because they were able to return to a place of security, which is their home. They say when people are running away from danger, they're looking to run home. You know how it is. Your mama is your first home. Mommy, you're looking for safety. Daddy can be right there, and he could be prepared with his muscles, but you know who you're calling for, mommy. So I am saying through the months that our ancestors took coming here to this nation, through the Middle Passage, through the Ma'afa that still exists today, and that is ongoing, our ancestors undergone torment, and we still undergo that today. But they went through those months on those boats in the worst human conditions known to man. They were taken and stripped from their homes, not allowed to return home to Mama Africa. So I argue that we must return home as our ancestors, our elders, our teachers have taught us. Whether that be internally, whether that's intellectually and spiritually and all those type of things, or that's physically by putting your feet down. But the reality is you can put your feet down and don't do the work internally and didn't still return home. So I argue, I maintain that we must return home to Mama Africa. And I am saying this just not as just to sound like okay, we've been saying that since the 60s and 70s or 80s. I am saying that even us in African-centered communities, we have to begin to talk about both, and we have to talk about the research that we're doing, the scholars have done. We have to talk about the quantitative and the qualitative. Let me say that again, the quantitative and the qualitative. Because look, if we're the first people to put math together, why aren't we doing quantitative studies? We understand that quantitative has shortcomings and it's short, but also qualitative does as well. It's called both and. Why do we have to pick one when we're the developers of it all? Why? Both and. We don't have to pick one when we created it all. I am saying we're operating from a traumatized state that has us believing this, and it has us fragmented. Instead of doing qualitative studies and thinking that's so superior because we struggle with the material, we rather deal with the ethereal. No, we, the creators of it all, science, technology, mathematics, spirituality, all of it, have the right, the birthright to use it all. Stop telling our people not to do mixed quantitative research. I'm sorry. I know the white man has abused you with it, but that doesn't mean throw the baby out, as Dr. Malefi Asante says, with the wash water. We created math. We created science. We say we're the first scientists. We're the first builders. We're the first Imhotep multi-genes. I am saying you two are multi-genes. I started off saying today that you are also genius. Identify that genius in you so that we can identify it in others. If you have not identified your gifts, at least if you want to keep it there, you will struggle with seeing somebody else. And I promise you that everybody has a gift. Gifted does not look like one thing. Western society has their idea what gifted is and all that type of thing. I'm not saying it's totally off. I'm just saying I don't necessarily like the word per se, but I understand the construct. we have to deal with both, and we have to deal with our neurological differences in our community. We are neurologically wired different from birth or through experience. And I'm telling you, that is why we're struggling. If we don't deal with the science, we're going to struggle. Both and mixed methods research if you want to do both. There's none more superior. It's both and. So again, family, I want to close out by saying thank you for your time. I want to say that I've developed Njia theory and the Njia model, a sacred framework for wholeness. Njia, a theory. We have plenty of theoreticians. I mean, I can go on days on how to teach you how to actually utilize the theories that we've come up with. Even if you want to go and use James Combs, I'm telling you, he, as even a Christian theologian, Black liberation theologian, had some understanding of the phenomenon and the experiences of our people. If you want to utilize Malcolm X, you don't have all these great scholars. And we don't have a way to understand ourselves or a way to engage with one another. We intuitively have many ways. In many ways, we have dealt with the horrific experience. We've done all types of healing skills and modalities before anybody gave a name to it. I'm saying, look, don't get scared of this, what they call Western psychology either, because I say that Aaron T. Beck was not the first person that thought about a thought and a feeling and a daggone behavior. I promise you he wasn't. I promise you the first people that spoke about a personality wasn't white people. I promise you the first time somebody thought about an unconscious thought, it wasn't Freud. I promise you that Jung was not the first person that talked about the shadow self. In fact, and this is not just stuff that we're making up or I'm making up, that Jung and Freud and a lot of them, especially those two, study indigenous people, right, including our people. So what I am saying is, stop giving everybody your stuff. Stop saying you created everything and then taking it back from yourself. I'm saying, stop it. Pardon me. So family, so again, my Njia model speaks about the way of being, the way that we engage with one another. And I hope that I engaged properly tonight. Pardon me if I came a little too strong or too soft or somewhere in between. A way of understanding phenomena. We have phenomenal people in our communities that help us understand phenomena and ways of engaging. The ways that we engage, the ways that we heal. Don't allow people to say we don't have theories. Jump on Baba Khalil's book when he drops it on us, because he will show you the mind, the genius, the work that he's been doing and engaging in for years. And so ways of intervening, just the fact of humming. I'm telling you, you might not even know the skills that you have. The fact I even realized that neurologically I'm humming. Somebody told me, shut up one day. Why are you humming? And I realized that is a way to cope, a way to balance, a way to be in harmony. So we sing, and don't pathologize our people from the church, because I guarantee you they had a lot of things that kept us going. Now, that doesn't mean we get stuck there or we get stopped there or we don't grow from there. But I'm telling you, don't throw the baby out with the wash water. So again, we've covered a lot. We've named the wounds. We've challenged the binaries. We've reclaimed diagnosis, and we've remembered Mayat. And now I want to leave you with this. Don't stay stuck in someone else's survival story. Don't stay stuck in someone else's survival story. Reclaim your clarity. Walk in both and. Walk in your birthright. Walk in Mayat. Ashe.
Hotep. The floor is open for questions, comments, observations.
I just want to say real quick, that was just excellent discussion. I appreciated every single word, took notes. So I just want to express gratitude. Thank you.
Thank you. Gratitude.
Yes. I'm I feel like that I wrote what you said because that's how it's never one thing. It's never either or. It's always either or and. And I was saying that to somebody the other day because we get isolated into looking at one way, or not so much just one way, but we refuse to look at the other way.
Mm.
Somebody say, "Well, I think that I had a headache, so I wasn't able to do my laundry." Okay, you wasn't maybe you did have a headache, but that's probably not all that was happening. Maybe you didn't have laundry money. Maybe
Mm.
your washing machine was broke. Maybe you was just too tired. But there's always more than one thing. And right brain thinking, left brain thinking is all one brain.
Mm. I see.
We identify what we've been taught by the European and the European studies and scholarship, and we don't understand that we still got to go beyond that. They are giving us that so we can be traumatized or stay in our own trauma.
I see. Keeping us disintegrated.
There you go. There you go. True integration. True
Mm-hmm.
integration is what we're talking about. We never experience true integration because true integration is of the spirit, soul, body, mind, spirit.
Mm. I see.
Anyone
Just
else?
yes, just this is Mama Makeda Seshat. Just real quickly, I'm supposed to be in a meeting right now, but one person still has not arrived yet, so I'm sneaking away just to be able to talk for a minute. Um, we have been so stuck in this muck and mire in the psychopathology of Westernism and albinoidism that and Baba Khalil and I were talking earlier today about our true energy that has been so suppressed and repressed and stolen from us that we've got to tap into that dimension that allows us to have access to that portal, to that doorway that allows us to unlock their locks on us in order to reclaim and regain our true selves and our true energy source. Hotep, Hotep. And I'm going back on mute, Hotep.
Blessings.
Yeah. Deconstructing the failsafe has a new meaning and a new representation when you look at it from the perspective that you just gave us.
Mm.
But that's what it means. That's
I,
exactly, you described it.
I say. I say, Bob. Blessings. Yes.
Okay, well, I'm a generally, if there's no one having any more comments or any more questions, I'm gonna go to closing it out. Usually, you know what when it comes to a point and no one has anything, I think that the message has been delivered in such a way that the questions that want to be asked have already been answered, and I haven't set my mind up to ask the next question yet.
Any questions, comments? What they say? Critiques, feedback, debates, struggles,
Challenges?
challenges. Dr. Jared Ball go to epiphanies, all these C words.
Confirmation.
Okay, there's one confirmation. Okay.
Oh,
Yeah,
peace, Bible, Jamal.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, I'm going to read from a few documents that pretty much says some of the same thing in a whole different way. but our scholars and our ancestors have given us that a lot, given a lot of that. So I'm gonna read from Mr. Fuller. Everybody familiar with Mr. Fuller, right? Okay, Mr. Neely Fuller, who transitioned recently, who's one of the ancestors now. I'm gonna read from page 6. 2 basic qualifications for producing and or promoting justice. According to the compensatory counter-racist logic, there is a reason to believe that there are only 2 basic qualifications for producing and or promoting justice. 1, speaking and acting to find and reveal truth in regards to the interactions between all people in all parts of all areas of activity, including economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war and counter-war. 2, upon finding truth, speaking and acting to produce justice on the basis of the truth found. Living my art. That's what that sounds like to me. Living my art, which we know that my art is everything in balance. It's not just one thing or the other. It's one thing and the other.
I see.
And I just want to double check to make sure no one else had questions before we begin to wrap up. I know sometimes people need time to process the information before they can formulate a question. So I just wanted to open up the floor one more time. And I have a couple more thoughts myself.
Oh, wonderful.
Okay. All right. Everyone had a chance to share any thoughts or questions? Okay. I saw someone come off mute, so I just want to make sure. I just wanted to add too, I was going to say earlier, but I thought someone else was saying something. I think a lot of the information presented today, it's not things that we're used to hearing. I think you gave us a different narrative, and I really appreciate that, because it's something that it wasn't just, something necessarily our brains automatically agree with, but for me, it allowed me to sit and think and reflect, not only on us collectively, but internally, myself internally as well. So I thank you for that, because I feel that discussions like these are healing, or at least will initiate healing, because it triggers something within. It's not just something where we're hearing information that we agree with, but it's motivating us to make a change. So I just want to emphasize how powerful that was. And we really appreciate you taking time to present that to us all today.
I appreciate your words, and I typically have that effect. So people, the deers and headlights, they come back to me next week and they talk. So what they can do, Sister Segmet, is follow me, if I can say that, or on all the platforms at Dr. That's Dr. Dennis Ausar Winkler. On Facebook, I'm just Dennis Ausar Winkler. And also they can reach out to me via let's say email at Dr. Dennis Ausar Winkler at gmail.com. That's dr. Okay. Dennis Ausar Winkler at gmail.com. Or you can look us up at the Temple of New African Thought. TNAT, I'm sorry, TNAT-HWC.org. I'm sorry, I'm giving the wrong .com, or let me give you a better one. Temple, let me write it down. I'll write it in the chat. Temple of Nat, TEMPLE of Nat, ofnat.org is our website. We also, I'm the founder of what my wife, is Baba Khalil said earlier, a Diaspora and Soul Jamaican American Fusion, TNAT Holistic Wellness Center here in Baltimore. If you're in Baltimore, the DMV, or anywhere, Philly, anywhere not too far, come on up. Richmond, Virginia. I see a 718. Come on by. Just come on by to TNAT and Baltimore, our wellness center, where we do this work every day. Brother Curtis and a few other brothers in the other room right now, in a group room, doing some of this healing work. So yes, Sister Segment, I really appreciate your words, and I'm used to it. They come back and talk, and I do agree with what you're saying. It's kind of like this processing thing, and even this challenge thing, which is an internal type of thing, and that's my intent. So appreciate it.
I'm extremely glad that you were able to, take the time and come and share with us, man. I I knew that we thought alike a lot. I've been watching you for a minute, and I've known that, but I feel really good. I feel really good because
and
that's
part of that,
always
have
good with your confirmation that what you're thinking and how you're thinking is also shared with some other scholars.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, especially when you do a certain work, especially that in those helping fields, there's a certain level of vulnerability, a certain level of human connection. There's a certain level of transparency that is, I guess I would say, gifted to us. That opens up portals and I'm going to say in a real way, that I'm not saying you have to be in those fields, but I'm saying those fields do open up portals into experiences that you really don't get to see many times. And not as often. You don't get to see the patterns. You don't get to see people in their most vulnerable states. And so it's a real thing. And I'm about people. I'm about connection. That's why I decided not to do a PowerPoint today, because I wanted to connect. I was going to say pardon for me not having a PowerPoint, but if y'all invite me back, if y'all want a PowerPoint, I'll do a PowerPoint. But yeah, flesh it out a little bit more. But yeah, I thank y'all for having me on and all that type. I think Mama Earth. Did you have? I thought Mama Earth. I saw her.
She said.
I saw her unmute a few times, and I'm see that black fist up on that picture. You got to come through saying something.
I wanted to say something. Listen, I got off from work and sat down, and then I said, "Oh." And I hurried up and got on. I am, my apologies for coming on late, but it's always a pleasure to see each and every one of you, my family. I am so proud of you. Dr. Dennis Winkler, you are phenomenal. And I know you were a blessing to those who came on. And I look forward to collaborating with each and every one of you as I take a step out here and be more active in the community, because you are my backbone. You are those who help push me forward as I go out here and do the work that the Most High have created me to do. I thank you, and it's good to see each and every one of you. Love to you all. Peace.
Peace.
I just saw is where it says the Temple of Nat. Is there a T missing from that? Where it says Nat.
Nat is, yes. So it means Temple of New African Thought.
Yeah, I know, but I'm just saying that it does not have a second T. It just have the N. It just have.
Okay, the first one, the first T is the temple I spelled out, and then it's of, and then it's New African Thought. So it's not missing the T. The first T is the first T.
Okay, but the word Nat does not have a T in it.
So, yeah, you see the temple part there?
Yeah, I see the temple of
that's the T. You know, normally go to T-Nat.
Okay, I got you. Okay. Because I'm used to seeing
T-Nat.
T-N-A-T.
Yeah. So yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Baba, for that.
Not a problem at all. Because we get a lot of messages from Ausar Senior, and he always makes sure that he puts it out.
Yes, sir.
Yes. He's a regular on Black Awakening Movements, leaving us a lot of information.
Oh, really? Okay. I didn't know that. Okay. But I know he got some information.
Yeah, this week he's been making sure that we get all of the information on the AES.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I was saying. My father, earlier. Yep. I don't know if he's on now, but peace, Baba.
Okay. Anybody else that have any other comments they want to make before we close out?
Hotep, I just wanted to say thank you.
Blessings.
I took a ton of notes as well and working on my anger and also learning Black history makes me angry and then have to cool off and take a break and return. And then I'm also writing a forgiveness letter to my dad who caused some learning trauma. So with math, and stuff. So and he was like a Joe Jackson. He was my track coach as well. So um and I also want to be, like you said, in the middle, not too tough, but not too soft as a parent if I ever become one. So, yes. So I'm learning and I'll definitely be following you. So you have a new fan now.
Blessings. Yeah, appreciate it.
Okay. I'm getting ready to close out, and I'm gonna close out today reading from the deconstructing the failsafe, self-care principles for re-Africanization.
Hmm.
There is a chapter that deals directly with forgiveness and anger, so it might support you in making sure that you read it or talk directly to me. You would probably get more if you talk directly to me, because if you have a question, then that always stimulates me to the next place. Alrighty, but I'm gonna read this, and I think this will kind of sum up what we heard tonight. The journey of Africanization is not confined by the boundaries or limited by others' expectations. Instead, it is an open invitation to seek knowledge wherever it exists, to incorporate wisdom from all sources, and to process these understandings in your own unique way. When we are not trained in and by intuition, we are driven by intellectual reason devoid of spirit, which binds us to objective reason, which imprisons us to limited reason. We must learn to ascend beyond this point. Live my art, think my art, be my art.
Sure. I hear it, Bob. I hear it.
Yeah, hotel. Next week, actually, we will be presenting Baba Khalil, Dr. Bay, and deconstructing the failsafe. So it will be a presentation on deconstructing the failsafe next week. Man,
Ashe.
hotel.
Hotel.
Dr. Baba, Comrade, Hotel. Appreciate you. We will be welcoming you back.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Blessings.
Thank you so much. And thank you to everyone who joined tonight. Make sure y'all tune in next week. This is gonna be good.
We're gonna have some fun.
Yeah.
Learn.
What's up, family? Have a beautiful night.
Okay.
And we are getting ready to close out, but the Black Awakening Movement does have a leadership meeting, so